Hello friends, today we're going to be creating a mixed media tag card, and in order to achieve this I will take an 8.5 by 11 and I'll pretty much just snip the corners off to give it a tag shape. And to this I will be using some paper shapers. I'm using some paper from My Mind's Eye paper pads, and I have two different ones, and one of them is called Notable and the other one is called Remarkable. And I will be using some papers from this paper pad in order to get myself a hot air balloon and some of the other details in the back. This stencil that I'm using here is a Jot stencil, which is found at Dollar Tree, and I'm using this with some Tim Holtz Distress Oxides, and I will have all the colors listed down below. And I'm using a brush to apply the yellows and the orange, and I will use a sponge to apply the blues. I'm also using a red on this one. So for most of these like mandala type things, I'm using a yellow, an orange, and a red. And then for some of the other details, I'm using the blue, the baby blue, which I think is broken china, if I'm not mistaken. But I will have all the colors listed down below. And this stencil has kind of worn itself out a little bit. It's starting to tear apart, but I'm still able to use it because it is sticky. So I'm still able to kind of play with it a little bit and still get some life out of it yet. So just applying a few of these here and there and blending some of my colors together. And like I said, I'm using a regular paintbrush to apply some of these colors on here. And because they're all in the same kind of color family, it works out okay. I'm also going to be applying another Jot stencil, which is this one right here that has a lot of beautiful vines, and I'm using a darker blue, which I believe is denim blue if I'm not mistaken, and that's the color that I'm using to pretty much get some more stenciling in there to represent wind. This is going to be a sky themed mixed media tag. And so what I've done is I've used up some paper shapers that I got online, and I have processed 2 of them. And what I'm doing now is I pretty much traced the outside of the paper shaper in order to get more or less the perimeter or the diameter that I needed in order to create a backing for the balloon, because most of the shapes from the inside do pop out, so it leaves more or less like a skeleton. And I needed something to cover that up in the back. And at first I was just going to use one, but one was just too small for such a great space on this tag, so I decided to create another one. And I will do it in the same process, the same step. Now in order to create a little bit more of a dimensional look, I went ahead and used a Sharpie to just outline it and darken up the ropes that hang from the balloon, the ones that connect the basket to the balloon I should say. I'm using an extra small Faber-Castell Pitt pen in order to do some really fine outlining around the skeleton of the balloon itself, just to make it stand out a little bit more. And so pretty much just adding a little bit of details here and there just to give it a little bit of distinction. And now I'm going to go ahead and create the next one using another piece of pattern paper from the My Mind's Eye paper pad. And as you can see here, all the little pieces kind of fall out, which is great for some things but not for what I needed for this project. And so that's the reason why I needed to create some kind of a backing for it. And I started off with the actual shaped out paper, but I'm like, I need something sturdier. So again, I went and used the paper shaper in order to get the perfect outline. Now it does come out a little bit bigger than what I needed to be, but that's okay, because once I glue it all down, I'll be able to trim off any excess. and just repeating all the other steps. And I wanted to see if I could add a little bit more detail to it by adding some of the pieces that popped out, but I opted to leave it as it was. And so I need to create now some bigger clouds, because although the paper shaper set does have clouds, they're really tiny, and I needed some other bigger clouds to kind of offset and just fill up some of the space in the background. So I hand drew these, and here I'm just pretty much trimming it all out and doing some fuzzy cutting, and then I'm gonna go ahead and shade these, and I'm gonna go ahead and shade them up with some Tim Holtz Distress ink. Just using an eraser right now to erase all of the pencil markings. Now I'm just distressing all of the edges and kind of framing the tag. What you will not see me do on camera, because unfortunately I thought I was recording it but I wasn't, is when I punch the hole on the top and add the strings to actually make it an actual tag. Unfortunately I thought I was recording it and I didn't record that part. I do apologize for that. But you will see basically most of the things that I'm doing. Now I'm going to be splashing some paint just to give the background even more interest and just make things look like there's a lot of things happening here. So I'm using a very small fan brush, and I've watered down some Decoart liquid acrylics, or fluid acrylics I should say, and I've watered that down with some water. I'm also using Dazzling metallics, and I've done the same with that in blue, and then I will do the same thing in the white, and just adding some splashes of paint. I will also do the same to the inside of the card at a later part of this video. So now that everything is dry, it's time to start assembling. What I'm using is some double-sided foam tape to just give it some dimension. And I've done some cleanup on my desk, as you guys can see. Now to place the clouds. Some of them will be stuck on directly, glued on directly to the background, and some of them will be propped up with some double-sided foam tape. And I have two small clouds remaining, so I will place them on the inside of the card. Now I am using a sentiment from a Unity Stamp Co. stamp, which is called Always Been You, I believe is what it's called. And the sentiment that I'll be using for this is sending love your way. Initially I stamped it out just to see if I liked the way that I placed it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some nesting paper shapers, and I'm going to grab two more pattern papers from the same collection, and I'm going to go ahead and restamp my sentiment and grab some nesting papers and kind of create this dimensional background and backing for the sentiment. Now here I'm going to go ahead and splash some paint just because I felt like I needed something more on the inside of the card as well. and I just grabbed a little bit of the blue and just splashed lightly around the card. So here I'm layering up my little panels in order to give it nice dimension and kind of make it look like it's in movement, since it is sending love your way. And I decided with the scraps to create some little envelopes. Now this is something that I was inspired by Mom to Create, who is another awesome crafter here on YouTube, and she created these really cute embellishments with some little handmade tiny little envelopes, and I thought, you know what, this would be perfect to add to the inside of this card. So that's pretty much what you see me doing here. I cut up some little rectangles from the scraps that were left over, and I'm gonna do my attempt at recreating some tiny little envelopes that I'm gonna use as the messages that are being delivered. Messages of love. So you're pretty much going to see me try to figure this out. Some of my lines sometimes come out crooked, so I will end up remaking one or two of them, I'm not sure. And this is a dilutions marker, I believe, in white, which is not really, it didn't really do the job that I needed it to do, but at least it created some contrast in the little pattern that I created around the envelope. And again, with the black Sharpie, just going around the edges to create some dimension. Using a ruler to create some straight lines where I'm going to be attaching my little envelopes to. And just kind of deciding where I want it. That one at the top is a little bit crooked, so I will opt to create a new one, which is what you'll see me do here. Trying to get it just right. That didn't work, so here we go again. Third time's the charm, right? That's what they say. I'm a little bit more satisfied with this one. It's a little bit straighter, and this is the one that I'm going to go ahead and use. And with that being said, you guys, we're about done to the end of the card. Please stay tuned for some pictures. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, I hope that you do. Please like this video.